The Blame Game Commander Precon has two main themes. The first is incentivizing and forcing your opponent's creatures into combat. This is supported by the commander herself, Nelly Borca, Impulsive Accuser, along with spells like Disrupt Decorum, Martial Impetus, and Spectacular Showdown. The second theme is disincentivizing your opponents attacking you by building a pillow fort, with spells like Ghostly Prison, Brash Taunter, and Windborne Muse. When this plan is in motion, top-end threats like Fiendish Duo and Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, will make sure your opponents quickly finish each other off, while spells like Comeuppance and Take the Bait will severely punish those brave enough to turn their attention toward you. This hyper-budget upgrade will introduce and cut 15 cards from this deck for less than $7. And let's jump right into it, starting with creatures. Goblin Spymaster supports the first theme by sending an undercover 1/1 agent to each opponent's battlefield on their end step with the sneaky little line, creatures you control attack each combat if able. Some of these creatures may already be goaded by you. Others may end up coming your direction. But even with all that, you can more or less guarantee every non-vigilant creature is going to be tapped. And if you're picking the right suspects, your opponent's life totals are going to disappear well before yours is in any danger. This creature is 25 cents. Nils, Discipline Enforcer, proudly supports the second theme by handing out +1/+1 counters to a target creature from each player on your end step. These counters aren't only an additional power and toughness. No. They are a physical manifestation of a tax. Specifically a mana tax for attacking you or planeswalkers you control, equal to the number of counters on the creature. This will keep priority targets off your back, and in games against counter strategies, completely shut them out. This creature is 91 cents. Hey, before we keep going with the upgrade, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. You'll make a stranger's day and give yourself the best access to Commander content like this, coming your way every week. Taunt from the Rampart is a spell I can't get enough of. I talked about it as part of the mini upgrade package in the last video, so I won't stick on it for long. All your opponent's creatures get goaded, all your opponent's creatures can't block. With Nelly on the battlefield, you'll be drawing cards as this all goes down, and with the reduced life totals, in a great spot to win the game. This sorcery is $1.18. Coronation of Chaos is like the last spell, goading your opponent's creatures and making them unable to block. Unlike the last spell, it's limited to 3 target creatures. I still absolutely think that this is worth running for a couple of reasons. The first is that goading can be really strong. Sometimes Hikori Dustdrinker needs to die. By forcing it into combat, it's very likely someone will make that happen. The second reason is to make a safe attack for your commander, Nelly. This game plan really wants her attacking to suspect and goad more and more creatures. This sorcery is a lowly 6 cents. Now we get into our vegetables, Boros Signet and Wayfarer's Bauble, to add a little more ramp to the deck. These ones were chosen due to the 4 mana cost commander. If either one of these are in your opening hand and you hit your first 3 land drops, you'll be able to cast your commander on that 3rd turn. The faster she's on the battlefield, the more suspects you can line up. These artifacts are 61 cents and 18 cents, respectively. The first of the 2 instant editions is Path to Exile. I know, but it's really good. For those unaware, it straight up exiles a target creature for a single white mana. The controller of that creature doesn't leave the interaction empty-handed though, as they can search their library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. This instant is 92 cents. The second one is Dawn Charm, which has 3 modes, all of which you'll find use for in your games. The first mode is a get out of jail free card when facing down lethal levels of combat damage. The second mode can give a high priority creature like Gisela or Nelly a second chance. And the last is another get out of jail free card, this time against a spell that targets you. In most games at this power level, I'd expect the first mode to be the play, which will at least buy you time. But who knows, you holding up 2 mana may alone dissuade someone from attacking you, letting you save this spell for a rainy day. This instant is 60 cents. Convenient Target is the only enchantment edition and is a new single red spell from the murders at Karlov Manor. It enters the battlefield attached to a target creature, granting it +1/+1 and suspects it. More often than not, this is an aura you'll strap onto an opponent's creature. Firstly, this could give Nelly a safe attack as that suspected creature can no longer block. That would allow for the second thing, attacking with Nelly to suspect yet another creature, and then goading both of them alongside all other suspected creatures. It also offers a mana sink for later in the game, letting you put it in your hand from the graveyard for 3 mana. This enchantment is 22 cents. We got an MDFC coming down with Sajiri Shelter. At 1 and a white, it will offer a target creature protection from a target color until the end of the turn. Whether that means avoiding someone else's path to exile, letting you block a massive creature, or clearing the path for an unblockable attack, you will find a way to cast this to your advantage. And if you need a land, it can be played as Sajiri Glacier, a white source that will come into play tapped. This MDFC is 88 cents. The rest of the additions are lands. 99-cent Battlefield Forge to give you both sources of mana. 6-cent Forgotten Cave to give you another card draw opportunity, 1 mountain, and 2 plains. The reason for so many substitutions on the land front is because 13 of the 37 lands only tap for a colorless mana. I understand there is more flexibility for playing utility lands when you're on less colors, but roughly a third of your lands is extreme. What this means practically is in roughly a third of your games, 2 of your first 4 lands will be colorless. In a 10th of your games, 3 of your first 5 lands will be colorless, with some of these colorless lands demanding colors to even get utility from them. This will be mitigated by your mana rocks, but that kind of mana base is too unreliable for my blood, which is why we are cutting 7 total lands, with the underlying themes for all of them being that they tap for colorless mana, or they require colored mana to utilize. Ash Barrens is the first land to go. The fixing is nice, but in only 2 colors, there's a solid chance I'll have both colors in my starting hand, and from that point, I'd rather draw into a basic. Next is Castle Ardenvale, which comes in tapped unless you control a plains. You'll have 11 of those, so an untapped castle is totally plausible. That said, the activatable ability completely misses the mark in this deck, where there's no human synergies or token payoffs to speak of. Carekeep lands in the exact same bucket, only this one doesn't even tap for a color. This land belongs in some decks. I just don't think it belongs here. Reliquary Tower is a fantastic land, and if you're doing the thing with the Impulsive Accuser, you will be drawing plenty of cards. Even still, this deck doesn't take advantage of a fistful of cards like other commanders do. You'll play a spell or 2 each turn, but you're really gaining your advantage through other means. You're gonna be okay discarding in this case, and better yet, you've even got ways to recur some of those things from the graveyard. Rogue's Passage is one of 3 lands in the deck that help Nelly Borca swing in without fear of dying. Escape Tunnel can also fix your mana. Access Tunnel, while more limited, costs 1 less mana to use. And I don't want all 3, so the passage got the boot. Slayer's Stronghold is next. Frankly, these aren't very interesting keywords in this deck, and the additional power isn't high enough to make this worth keeping around. The last land cut is Throne of the High City, and my reasoning is pretty single-minded, so let me know if you disagree. A large portion of this deck is dedicated to making people not want to attack you. If you're wearing the Monarch's crown, that's a pretty good reason for people to attack you. And for that reason, I'm out. I'm cutting 3 creatures, 2 of which I covered in the review video. Feather Radiant Arbiter and Etali Primal Storm. Check out that video if you want fuller explanations. I do want to call out commenter Fruity Loops 9369 that mentions Feather's ability can in fact target every creature, not just your own. So you can strap her with Vow of Lightning and then copy it onto as many enemy creatures as you can afford. I still don't think there's quite enough support to justify leaving her in, but that alone opens many brand new doors to walk through when building her out as her own commander. The last creature removed is Steel Hellkite. There are arguably still too many high mana value creatures in the deck, and this one, despite its destructive upside, I found to have a hard time reaching its potential. And the 2 mana fire breathing ability always makes me feel sad for it. First sorcery removed is Winds of Wrath. Your creatures aren't really in the business of wearing the enchantments in this deck, so the only creatures this spell will spare are your opponent's creatures. That's exactly the opposite effect of what I want in a board wipe. Second sorcery is Mob Verdict. I hope I'm wrong about this spell, but outside of maybe burn decks, I can't see many people happy to be running this in their 99. It's functionally a board wipe, and with a maximum of 6 damage to one player and their creatures, a narrow and possibly not even complete board wipe, especially against dinosaurs or Eldrazi. If you want a board wipe, run a better version. If you want that card draw, there's better ways to go about that as well. Immortal Obligation is another new spell getting cut. I think there's going to be too many times you want no business resurrecting any of your opponent's creatures. Am I really going to bring back a Sakura Tribe Elder or a Goreclaw? I don't think so. Some things are better left dead. The last 2 cuts are enchantments, Rite of the Raging Storm and Soul Snare. I don't want to give my opponents a creature that isn't forced to attack someone other than me, especially considering strategies that could utilize those creatures towards ends that don't favor me. And for Soul Snare, it's good with other enchantment synergies, but in this deck, I'll take the unconditional half-cost Path to Exile over it every time. And that's a wrap, everyone. Check out the deck list in the description to see for yourself those additions and removals. Please take 3 seconds of your time to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and if you're feeling generous, give me your thoughts on the goad mechanic as a strategy in Commander. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Should it be banned into oblivion? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time for some more monkeying around.